Hi, everyone.
Hello,
Nina and Lori here today. I'm coming to you from Lindau, Germany.
and I'm at the moment in Sweden. It's a little bit
Wow, we're always
cold, but
finding
still
time.
beautiful sunshine and no snow yet. So it's still quite nice to be here and near the forest, which is very nice.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, lovely. Hopefully you can spend some nice time outside, even though it's a little bit chilly, but to get that beautiful forest air is so nourishing.
Absolutely,
Lovely.
yes.
Yeah, so today we wanted to talk a little bit about something that came to both of our attention about really the statement or the concept of life is really what you make of it. So we're always faced with different circumstances in our day-to-day life, and right now Nina's going through a lot of different changes. I mean, we all are, but she has specifically had a post yesterday on Facebook about going to see her family and being around here, and just taking really the positives in. And yeah, so it's really interesting in how we can be dealing with these kinds of things, but it can really come down to life is what you make of it. So maybe Nina, if you'd like to just share a few minutes about this post, or about like the feelings that you elicit in that statement about life is only what you make of it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Laurie. I mean, you just said it, explained it like, it is, I'm going through a lot because I'm traveling a lot at the moment and seeing people or seeing family even that I haven't seen for a long time. And it really just, makes me, like we talked about last week, just appreciating things again and being grateful that, actually I can come and see my family. Of course, as I said on my Facebook page that, in the post that I can't see my mother or some of my family members at the moment due to the corona. But I'm just grateful actually being here in Sweden at the moment in my old little hometown that I actually grew up and during my teenage years, and being able to spend some time with my little nephew that I've actually haven't seen that many times or had a lot of time to be with because we live on the other sides of the globe.
Mhm.
But yes, so I really thought about it actually last night. I put it on Facebook that, you know, life is really what you make of it. Because in mindfulness, we often talk about, that, everything depends on how we are actually thinking, number one. Number two, of course, after that, however we are thinking, the second part is like, the action that we take. And of course, and also it comes after the action, you have consequences. So if you actually are thinking very positive and being grateful, as we spoke about last week, about things, then of course, that brings you joy and happiness. So I try to always think about the things that are actually very good in my life instead of what is lacking. And when people then say, life is what you make it, is it that simple? Actually, it is. It really is. Because, you can take two people in an exactly same situation, and one can be absolutely miserable, and the other one is very happy. So, so it really goes to that, happiness starts really from within ourselves. Nobody else on this planet can actually make you happy. So I was just feeling, very grateful and very happy. And, people can sometimes wonder, well, what do you have to be happy about right now? And I said, you know what? There are thousands of things I have that I can be happy about. And that's why I'm happy. So, that's just in a very,
Thanks.
very basic way to explain it.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think, Laurie, you agree with me that this is, the reason why we're trying to obviously, focus our lives on the positives. That,
Yes,
because,
certainly. And, sorry, go
yeah,
on.
go on. No, no, no.
I was just gonna say it's interesting because you touched also on gratitude, and I think there's such a big connection, and that's what we talked about last week when we were here. It's like the connection between that gratitude changing the situation is regardless, we're going to have to deal with things in life. But the way that we have that mindset to think about something, to be grateful for it, to really make the most out of the situations we're given, to see those good things, to see those things that can bring happiness in our life, or exactly having the same situation happen to us, but being always finding that negative piece to
Yes.
dwell on, or finding that negative feeling, or, oh, but I wish this was here, or this isn't the way I want, or this isn't, there's always that, and that's where it comes back to, we create our own reality.
Oh,
And
absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
coming from up here. How do we see it? We say, how do you see it? If you're blind, that doesn't matter. It's still how you take in the information. You don't actually have to have eyes that work. It's not physically seeing something. It's that taking it in to
Yes.
to process
Yes, and as
what's going
you know,
on.
we both have, you and I, we have both lived in, developing countries. We have been doing a lot of charity work. We have been surrounded by a lot of both very wealthy people and very, very poor people. And this is really what surprises me, actually, being back in the Western world, and especially in the countries that there is a lot of wealth, that people, this material wealth does not bring happiness. Yes, it can bring comfort. Yes, it can make life easier. And yes, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't, I love beautiful things. I love because it's beauty to me, or because it is maybe given to me by somebody that I care a lot about, or it's reminds me of something, or it's a gift. So I love beautiful things, but that doesn't actually give the soul the proper happiness. So it's a little bit sad also to see that here in the Western world that, people are finding a lot of excuses why to be unhappy. Whereas
Yeah,
actually the one thing that they don't have to worry about is the food on the table and that roof maybe over their heads. But again, that we are instead focusing on like, oh, why, finding reason, like why is the life is not really good right now, instead of
yeah,
actually really looking and saying, life is actually wonderful. And I really think, and maybe that is also the experience, coming from developing countries, that you realize like, wow, life is really good. We don't really
yeah,
have those kind of big worries here. And as you know, like in Philippines and Indonesia, some of the poorest people are always the ones with the biggest smiles, and the
that's
ones,
so true.
greeting you and being always happy, on a good mood. And you just think like, wow, they get it. They get it.
Yeah,
They
true.
really do.
Yeah.
So
um what comes to mind when you mention about, like, in the West, how you see there's a lot of, like, people that are depressed, or finding reasons to not be happy. And I think for me, a big thing that comes up is this consumerism. We in the West, we have such a bombardment. I mean, not in the West, because it's really everywhere, but when we have a more affluent society, we have more media sources, we have more outside entertainment, more things that can come into our space easily, or in a way. And and that consumerism, like, you have to buy the next phone, you have to buy the next new pair of trendy clothes, or new this, and that constant desire,
mhm.
or sense that we need to buy something else in order to be happy or be in the right space. I think that's also, like, sets the notion for us to not find happiness, because exactly, so I bought this bag today and it feels good. It feels good for a little while. I don't know,
Yes.
maybe even for the first couple of weeks of using it. And maybe you'll still always love the bag, but after a while, slowly, like, well, I would like another color, or I don't know, this one has a rip on it, or it's a little bit
Yeah.
dirty, you know. So it's like, when we place that happiness on that outside object, or on those outside things, it's so easy for it to just be like a fleeting moment, because we attach it to something that's not permanent. It goes, it's out.
Yes, I totally agree. And, this is what we always say, that, don't confuse happiness with external. You cannot get happiness from external things. Yes, it
Hmm.
can make your life more comfortable. And yes, it can, like you said, make you happy for a few moments. But the real true happiness doesn't come from external thing. It can only be, found within ourselves. And I find it also, it can be sometimes when you're trying to explain this to people, and I understand people say, oh, but just because you're so lucky, there we go actually to another subject, it's nothing to do with luck. We
Hmm.
don't actually, we need to be very careful how we judge other people, because, we don't know all the things that another person has gone through. We have never
Hmm.
walked in their shoes, so we need to be very careful what we say and how we say it, because I think, saying this, that, oh, you're very lucky, has actually no reality in it whatsoever. Because number
Mm-hmm.
one, we don't know about their reality. Number two, luck, we make our own luck. Because
Yeah,
if you
I
are
agree.
in a situation, you are failing with something continuously, you really need to stop and think to yourself that, okay, how can I change this? How can I
Yeah.
turn this around? Because if you continue the same, I mean, of course, you're always going to get the same outcome. The outcome is
Yeah.
not going to say,
Yeah.
to change if you have the same attitude towards it.
Yeah, totally. I
And
think that overlaps so many things in our life. And I think it's easy to get stuck in that rut of it's never going to work for me.
yes,
It's always a bad thing. And it's kind of like also that victim, like, oh, my life is so hard.
yes,
Someone else has it easy. They've had rich parents. They've had everything given to them, whatever the case is, right? But my father left, this happened, that happened. Oh, it's so horrible for me. I'm not taking away that is not a nice reality that someone maybe had to deal with, but
yes.
it doesn't need to mean that everything is always going to be bad for you. But when it comes back also, like, there's so many things on this topic that we can go
Oh,
talk about
that
for hours, really.
absolutely. There's so much. We can
Like,
talk forever about it for sure.
our thoughts are energy, like everything's energy, and we can take this down to quantum physics, to science. Like, science can prove this. It's
Yes.
not just we're talking a bunch of like fancy pantsy stuff. This is like scientifically proven. Our thoughts are energetically proven. They have a vibration, they have a frequency. If we're
Yes.
constantly thinking negative things, whether it's about even our own body size, for example, like
Mhm.
I'm too fat, that kind of thing is really common, unfortunately, for a lot of women,
Mhm.
particularly women. Also men can have these issues too, but
Mhm.
if we're constantly thinking that, we keep creating that reality. We're sending that vibration out there, we're sending that energy there. When we start to change what goes on up here, and it really, so much of it comes back to what is in here.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because I hear so many people say, i I can't control it, I worry all the time, or I can't control that, or I don't
We
know.
can.
But
It's the one thing, there's nobody else can control our mind except
right.
ourselves.
Yes.
You know,
And it can be challenging, and meditation is a really good way to start, to work on cleaning that energy, clearing, to gain that perspective, to gain your focus, and bring it
and
back to yourself.
like like you said, a lot of people struggle to meditate, and I say sometimes, like, what is so easy to do? Just actually listen to the chatter of your mind and see how much rubbish it talks. Because
Yes.
especially when it's a lot of negativity, and like, oh, I don't look good, oh, this is so bad, and oh, that is that. Just listen to that own chatter in your mind, and then say, hey, actually, I want it to be quiet, because it is not true always what it does say. And this is the whole
Yes.
point that we say,
It's-
our
yeah.
mind is a very good, we have a monkey mind.
Yeah.
And is
Yeah.
we need to try to, and that's why meditation exactly is good, because we can stop that monkey jumping around and actually
Yeah.
focus on the things we do want to focus and we want to think about.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like when you say, like, we can have these different thoughts, and just listening to them, that's like part of the awareness. It's not, because meditation can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be,
Yes.
and that's the reality. Anything has that potential to, depends what's the route we go about it. And exactly, like when you say having a meditative space and just listening to those thoughts and hearing them, and sometimes even hearing, is it someone else's voice? And I'm not,
Yes.
like, because
Yes.
sometimes we can hear our mother, like, "Meow, meow, meow,"
Oh,
she said, this, or so and so said this, or somebody is, and it's like, hang on, that's not even me.
no.
So we can even address that and be like, kind of just say a mental thank you to them. I don't need your input anymore. Thank you very much. And just have that simple act of kind of like clearing that out and bringing that
Yes, because
awareness.
I really agree with that, Laurie, because I think this is like a huge subject, actually, because we don't realize that actually even those thoughts that come up, sometimes it's, again, I'm a big fan of writing things down. Like, is writing it down and actually said, is that attitude coming from me, or is that attitude coming from, I don't know, the teachers I used to have, or is it from my parents or my grandparents? Is it from the society we live in, or is it from the education system I went through? Or, where does this actually, or is this truly what I believe in?
Yeah.
And actually,
Yeah.
it's quite interesting because you start going like, actually, I don't really believe that. No, I don't
Yeah.
really believe that. So, so you realize that you have actually so many different people's, voices in your head. And that's exactly why
Yeah.
it's so important to say, learning to understand, okay, which one is my voice? And when people say that, yeah, but, my family was always very negative, very, um, and this is something that this is just the way I am, this is my personality, is actually not true. You can change that. I actually come from
Yes.
a family or from a, yes, where I would say that, generally the people around me were very, very negative thinking. It was always,
Hmm.
preparing for the worst instead of preparing for the best. And I'm
Hmm.
not saying, I'm not blaming anyone because we need to take responsibility for our own lives. But all I'm saying that, I changed that mindset by working really hard at it. So that every time something negative would come up, I would say, oh, stop it now, Niina. Let's turn it around. Let's turn it around. And of course, it happens still today, but it's all about working on it continuously. None of
Yes.
this, this is what we always say, that mindfulness, like yoga, like everything else, you know, it's a lot of discipline. You have to have a lot of discipline. But
Yeah.
once,
Yeah.
you work on it very, very hard, like with anything else in life, that mindset starts changing. It's almost like,
Yeah.
like a computer, that
Yeah.
you're
It is.
cleansing the whole software out and you're putting, or is it hardware? I don't even know because I'm not good at technology, but, anyway, so that is like, you're wiping it all out and you're starting fresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore, it's nothing to do with luck, nothing to do with external things. It's all about how we work on it ourselves.
Yes, that's great. You're 100% right. I believe I mean it's true. I don't have to say I believe it because I know it. That's also a product of my life as well. And like you say, that's what you've gone through and been through. And I think, yeah, it comes back really to the beginning of our conversation now. It's like life is what you make of it. And
It's
we can start by noticing our thoughts and our actions. And when we start to become aware, we can say, is this what I want?
yes,
Am I happy in this space? Are these the things that I want? So really, I would suggest for anybody who's watching this, just take some inventory. It's a constant process. Like Niina said as well, it requires discipline. It's a constant process of having that awareness. Is this the things that I want to be doing? Are these
yeah,
the people that I want to be with? Are these the thoughts that I want to be thinking? Am I, producing the life that I want? Because essentially we have the ability to create our own lives. And it's just it takes time. It's not like boom, I have a big house or something because I'm
no,
just
no,
manifesting this.
no.
That's not the meaning of it, but it's like starting with what's going on up here is really
Mhm.
key. And um yeah, I think
Absolutely. No,
that's
I agree. And I think, this is, but I know that it is very, quite hard because remember, once you start realizing how powerful your mind is and the action, the way you think and the way you act, you actually realize that, oops, I'm responsible for my own life and my own happiness. And that is not everyone is prepared to do that because it's so
correct.
easy well, you know that, Lori, so often we can see that, it's very easy to blame the world, to blame our parents, to blame
Yes.
our friends or blame anyone, the doctors, I don't know, the teachers, whoever is out there. It's always easier to blame others for our misery instead of
Yeah.
going within and saying, did I create this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Or, I mean, because that question, like, did I create this? It can be a bit big because then it's like, no, I
yes,
didn't make someone say that. So, yes, we can go, like I say, into further depth of conversations on this topic. But just, I'd say for someone who's just like more starting out at becoming aware of these kinds of realities, just start thinking about start realizing or bring that awareness into your thoughts
yes,
and
yes.
your space.
Very,
And
very important. Exactly. Thank
yeah,
you, Laurie. That sometimes I go off a little bit too much, but
all
it's
good.
exactly
Yeah,
that. Just to starting off with actually recognizing, acknowledging the thoughts that come into your mind.
yeah. Yeah.
and pulling them apart and saying, why does this all come into my mind? If it's a negative thought, you know, what is
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. And
So
also, again, it can come back, like I say, to being gratitude. Am I grateful for what I have? Can I find gratitude in the space that I have? Even if the space that I have is not ideal, can I find something to be grateful for?
yes, that's
So,
absolutely. Thank you,
yes,
Lori, for that
I,
advice. And yes, that's really great talking to you as always.
yes, likewise. And thank you everybody for being here and for listening to our short little video chat. We're planning to continue to do this. So if you are enjoying, please, keep an eye out on our pages. We really like to bring some inspiration and kind of like get your brains moving a bit and pick your brains to get you thinking about different topics and subjects that come up in our space. And we always work together to find things that we think can be helpful for people in our
Yes.
lives.
Yeah,
Help
and
support
to say,
everyone. So
Loriana, thank you, Lori, for that. And I just think it is important to say that, you know, we are not trying to persuade anyone in any direction, or the only thing, we are just having a discussion and just to, you know, trying to encourage people to think outside of the box and you know, participate in the discussion. So if you have any comments or you would like to share something, please do. It's always really interesting for us to read your comments. So
yes,
thank you.
because we are always learning as well, and we learn from you guys when you leave us information for us to mull over as well.
Oh
So
yes,
take
we
care,
and we always
everybody.
learn it from them as well, you know, from everyone. So
Yes.
okay, thank
Well,
you.
thank you for being here. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.